Okay, recording now, I think. First, we did an annotated bibliography last summer and fall that we're still finishing up. And that revealed some gaps in the literature on food as medicine and some of the things that we learned from that process of doing the annotated bibliography, thinking about it, writing about it, presenting about it in November, is that a lot of the conversations on food as medicine are coming from a Western mindset of food as medicine being something that happens pretty exclusively in hospitals and clinics. And we are aware from the beginning, we've approached this project with a two-eyed seeing perspective of acknowledging both Western and Indigenous ways of knowing and being, trying to incorporate the two of them together. And the literature that has been published on food as medicine from an Indigenous perspective largely focuses on food sovereignty and other issues like that, where the Western literature focuses more on food security and other health, like trying to prevent or reverse chronic health conditions. So we are trying to expand the conversation on food as medicine to include folks like yourselves who are working broadly in the food system, because we know that this is not just a conversation that's happening in hospitals and clinics. So with that said, I'm Casey. It's nice to meet you all. I'll pass it to Courtney. Quick intros. And if I missed anything, add it.
No, I think you did great, Casey. My role in this project is for the Agricultural Marketing Resource Center. We have funds to do the Food as Medicine project, as Casey just mentioned. So just really excited to have these 4 different webinars that cut across our food systems and local food procurement spaces, but also Indigenous practices and various cultural practices that connect to how we use food, both for our personal health and cultural health and wellness. And then also the connection to the medical practice. So being both like insurance opportunities, thinking through those types of things, but also connecting to like our hospitals and clinics and seeing those. So those are kind of the 4 components. I'm pumped about this one just from the food systems perspective and everything I know y'all do. So excited to be on this with you. Erin, do you want to go next?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Hi, everybody. Casey and Summer, it's really nice to meet you. And Courtney, it's nice to see you again. My background, I'm a dietitian, chef, and I have my master's in sustainable food systems. And I took all those experiences and I started a nonprofit called Basil's Harvest about 5 years ago. And we work really through 2 different pathways. One, we convene organizations and businesses, academia, to look through the lens of farm to institution. So that's how I'm working with Courtney right now on a farm to military project, where we're learning the opportunities and the gaps about creating a shortened procurement pathway into the National Guard in Minnesota, and I hope in Illinois. So that's one piece where we work in. Our what we really try to do through all this work is connect soil health to nutrient density into the regional food shed. So the military project that we're working on, that's not a part of it in this first step, but my hope is that as we move forward, that it becomes a key piece of what we're doing. The second area that we work in terms of convening, we convened a group of medical professionals, food system professionals, water, climate, agriculture, research and educators to really start to look at the silos between healthcare, agriculture, and food systems, and start to bridge some of those silos. So we did a literature review. And then from there, we've written an article, and now we've been developing classes or curriculum, and it's all connected into this topic of food as medicine. So we have a culinary medicine program where we partner with a medical school and a hospital, And it's the Western version, there's no doubt about it, where we're really looking at the idea of putting a knife in a physician's hands to actually work in the kitchen to understand what simple meal prep is and how they can take some of this information just to begin the conversations with their patients. And then what we're also trying to do is, you know, bridge these silos to where they're the first people that patients see, but the patients need to work through the system working with dietitians or nutrition professionals to kind of move some of this forward. Um, so we also have that program. Um, the other, in terms of that culinary medicine program, and the other place that we live is that we've created curriculum for one medical school around this idea of a regional food shed connecting soil gut microbiome and the gut microbiome, what we know, what we don't know, but introducing this value supply chain to the med students. It's like, okay, let's start having this conversation to start changing the way we're thinking about this. Um, so that's what we do.
Hi, I don't know if you remember, but you presented at the direct marketing conference
I did.
right after Elliot. I saw your presentation, so I was there. So we didn't meet personally.
Oh,
But
well,
it
it's
was
nice to
in
see you
the,
again.
yes.
Thank you for recognizing me, and I apologize that I don't recognize you.
You were presenting to a room of people, and I was looking at one person talk. So I think it is more likely that I would remember you than, than you, the larger room of people who were in your presentation. So thank you for the work that you do. My name is Summer Sibley. Nice to meet you, Casey. Hi, Court. I'm Summer Sibley Brown. I live in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I run a place-based nonprofit called Virgin Islands Good Food Coalition. Our work is primarily in both the areas of food security, sovereignty, and then looking at it used to be just sustainability, but like there's a slash regenerative. Regenerative is really the goal, and we still kind of are looking at how the like sustainable development goals affect us here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we didn't get rid of sustainability, but there's like an R, right? Because we know we don't want to sustain this. We actually want to regenerate. Funny that you mentioned quality of soil and quality of food and that soil density and nutrient density because we live on an island that has limited topsoil, and one of our primary things is to like how do we build soil, but also how do we manage our very small average size farm is 5 maybe 10 acres, you know, and if it's livestock it's 30 acres ish. um, and like how do we manage that soil and to ensure that people are getting access to nutrient dense food, even if it's locally grown, right? It's not just grown, but it's actually healthy for you. I think work we have done in the past is we started off focusing on farm to school, ironically, which is how I met Courtney, um, being in a farm to school program. So that farm to institution model to build a community food as a pillar of building community food systems and growing the next generation of people who want to eat local and have a value for local food is where we started. We have done a farm to healthcare program with uh, PASU, Mount Sinai, and it's the pediatric environment specialty unit, who had funded us kind of piloting like what would a farm to healthcare program look like. So we've distributed like weekly bags, valuing $30 of fresh local food. One to build supply chain and markets for farmers, but two to give people access to nutrients. We didn't have to do anything special. We didn't track it. It was just like the last Friday a month, there's 100 bags of food in your clinic. If you have an appointment, you can leave with a bag of food, right? Or if you needed it, you could walk in. Then we started to distribute a percentage of those bags to the healthcare workers themselves, realizing that a lot of people who work in just because you work in the healthcare system doesn't mean that you actually have household food security, doesn't mean that you actually have access to the health you need yourself. And looking at like, how is the cleaning lady? How is the, the nurse practitioner? Like, how are all the people in the system? Because people assess, in my estimation, you think that salary should allow food security, but knowing that many people are one life incidents away, one flat tire, one child graduating, one parent being sick, one being sick themselves, from being able to provide for them consistently. And we make assumptions that because people have certain levels of paychecks or have access to paychecks, that in their home they have healthy food or they have access to providing food for themselves. What I will say, I think, so we personally believe, because we live in a hurricane-ridden zone, that both food security and food sovereignty are necessary. There are things that happen to be in cans that have preservatives that when you don't have power for 6 months, that bag of white rice and that can of salmon and that can of tomato sauce is important, because you don't have access to refrigeration and you don't know when you are going to get power. So these dried, preserved goods have a role in my community for disaster preparedness, and wanting people to have access to food that is seasonally available, healthily grown, fresh. They also have a place in this community, right? That is like our choice. And then the other part of the food of medicine is, like, we come from a forage culture. My grandmother knows every herb, weed, grass. Like, if my mother would take you, when your eyes are bothering you, you go outside and you pick eyebright and you wash out your eye with an eyebright and then you drink it. Like, if you have a fever, you take soursop leaves and you let that drop, like, so there's this herb, bush, way of being, and like the types of food that you're consuming that we know to give health and longevity, that my mother and grandmother are still preserving. And like, so my question is also, like, one, how do you get that on the American Dietary Association's list of valuable things that people should be eating because they are nutrient dense and culturally relevant and available and provide health? And then the other is, how are we passing that information to the next generation who is being indoctrinated, right, to go to the doctor, to only use this type of dietetics to like cure non-communicable disease, right? And in many ways, the way we have been taught to eat is what has fostered it. So it's like the unlearning of that, and like, where is the place for all these things in our community, because we need all of them.
That's fascinating. Thank you for your work. I just wanted to say a couple of things, if I may. So listening to you talk about the island and what you're working with and against. I was on Antigua last summer. I created a culinary medicine program for the medical school, and we piloted that program. And there was a lot of conversations around what you're talking about, and what you're doing, and the other piece around that all of the food is being a lot of the food is being imported, so the cost of that food and the impact of the cost of that food is an issue. Yeah.
It is. And so, Casey, this was an introduction, so I'll be quiet because I could jump straight in to like the conversation,
Yeah.
because so it's like,
I'm going
food
to interject.
access.
Sorry, and Summer knows I'll interrupt. So this was just a 30-minute debrief on what to expect for the Food is Medicine panel. I totally love this conversation, and I know everyone's time is stretched right now, and I have to hop off in a few minutes. But wondering if maybe we should just schedule a meeting, Summer, me, Erin, to talk about these pieces in the Caribbean at another time, and we can focus on letting Casey walk us through the panel for this morning. Okay, I'll send out a doodle for Erin and Summer and I. Thank you so much.
Okay, so can you see these questions?
Yep.
So our panel is going to be 90 minutes maximum. We'll pull the plug at 90 minutes, but these questions, like the timing of it, it should be less than that. Because we are going to have time on each of them. I'm going to figure that out, how to use a Zoom timer. So we're going to start just with brief introductions of who you are and why you're here. We'll give everyone 2 minutes. And we also have Spring coming to that conversation as well. Spring Alaska Shriner works. She's the owner and operator of Sakari Farms outside of Bend, Oregon. Very excited to have Spring on the call as well. And then we're going to have each of you describe what food as medicine means to you. And we ask that you can prepare some images and be ready to share your screen and talk through them. This was suggested to us. Pecha Kucha is the name of this kind of presentation. We're not doing the same thing. We're just inspired by that. I believe it's a Japanese form of presenting, and I think it's really beautiful to be able to tell your story and click through images at the same time. And then after everyone introduces themselves and talks about what food as medicine means to them, we will have a 5-minute group response and discussion, just like kind of what happened just now, where everyone has a turn, and then after that happens, we can all talk with each other about what was said. And that will be kind of the way that we'll do all of these different questions. Everyone will have their turn to speak, and then we ask that you take notes while co-presenters are speaking and save any comments or questions that you have for that time after everybody has spoken. Then we're going to ask how COVID has impacted the integration of food as medicine into your work, and similarly, how changing weather patterns have influenced the integration of food as medicine into your work, with the same 5-minute debrief after everyone has spoken. And then we're going to talk specifically about what I mentioned earlier about how we're using Two-Eyed Seeing, and I'll send this document to all of you right after this call, and this is a hyperlink so you can click on it and see the way that we are referring to Two-Eyed Seeing, because I think there are other ways, and I know there are many other Indigenous traditions across the world that speak of this concept with different terminology. But this one was introduced to us by our partners at Nourish in Canada, an organization there. And we want to know how you utilize this Two-Eyed Seeing approach in your work as food as medicine. And it will similarly be, everyone goes, and then we talk about it after. And then we're going to close up with having you define, Courtney, it says that you just entered the waiting room. Okay.
I'm gonna join from my phone now. Sorry.
Is it real? Have everyone define what food systems connections look like in food as medicine. Just listening to you all speak just now, it's clear that we all are coming into this conversation from a different place. So I think that will be interesting to hear. And then we're going to end, this was Courtney's suggestion, which I think is a great one, ending with a call to action from each person. So individual next steps or actions that you want to see in your work or field or life regarding food as medicine, like where you think, we don't want this conversation to stop when the panel discussion stops. So what do you want to see come out of this? What's next for you? And that's it.
Cool. This looks great.
Okay. Any questions? I'll email it to you all right now.
Casey, can you confirm the amount of time we have? Is it an hour? I've forgotten. Did we do an hour or 90 minutes?
90 minutes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What day is the panel again? Because I forget dates.
I think it's Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, 9 a.m. Central Time.
Next Friday though, right?
Next Friday, not this Friday.
Next Friday, the 12th.
It's on the 12th. Because you scared me right then. You really scared me. I was like, oh boy.
I meant to say next if I didn't. This Friday, we have our first one, our first panel, which is on food and insurance access.
Really?
Yes.
Is that open access to anybody?
Good
Can
question.
anybody join?
We were going to have it as a webinar originally, but then we just decided last week to record the conversations and post them later.
Oh, okay. So that'll be the same for us. We'll have the conversation and then you'll post it later. Oh, okay. So then you'll be able to share the recording with us and we can post on our sites too. Okay.
So they'll go on Agmark and then you can post the link from Agmark to share. But we are wanting to have everybody, I think this was a question we needed to confirm, is that folks are comfortable sharing their like contact information and name, email, etc. And then we can do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I am. That'd be great.
So then we can
You.
just put your contact information like below the video on the Agmark website so folks can reach out to
Okay.
individuals.
Okay.
But yeah, you can share the link with the
Okay.
on it to any
Okay.
pages.
Casey, could I ask you to share the Agmark link once it's posted with us?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. In an email or that would be wonderful.
Yep.
Okay. This is going to be fun.
I'm
And I'm
really
excited to talk to you again, Summer.
Same here. Same here. Thank you, ladies, for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you all. And I'll be in touch again right after this meeting with the document so you can look over the questions again.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
Thank
yeah,
Thank you very much for the invitation and organizing all of this.
of course. Really excited to talk to you all next week.
Okay,
Yes. Friday at 9.
sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.
Are you still here, Court?